Welcome, Simone Knego. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me here today.
Well,
Yeah.
we're excited to have you. Are you ready to pour into our listeners?
Yes, absolutely.
All right. So, Simone, would you share your leadership journey and tell us what you're currently doing?
Absolutely. So I've had a very interesting path. I started off in accounting and then became a stay-at-home mom. I have six kids. Then I worked in medical sales. I went back to school to be a teacher. And then I realized what I'm really passionate about is storytelling. So now I'm a keynote speaker, author, podcast host that really focuses on helping women build confidence from the inside out. And that was not what I thought I would be doing with my life, but I absolutely love it. And, thinking about what leadership means, I think that's sometimes where we struggle because we think of leadership or what I was taught when I was younger. It's the corner office, it's the title, it's the position, it's the boardroom, but it's really the things that we do every single day, the messy moments, the behind the scenes. Those are all leadership decisions. And I like to call it kitchen table leadership because so many of our big decisions happen around the kitchen table, but nobody's ever called it leadership. So we don't see it like that. So I'm here to kind of change that idea.
So, six kids, you were thrown into leadership. It was trial by fire. I think that's the best way. Honestly, the best way for people to learn leadership. We really, if we're parents, that really is a way forward, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I've probably learned more from my kids than from any educational institution because they're brutally honest and you have to figure it out, right? I mean, it's not like you can just say, oh, I'll get to it later. No, you can't. You have to do it. So I learned incredible lessons about myself and when it comes to leadership skills, the idea of patience and understanding and collaboration. Like there's so many things about parenting that help you in every aspect of life.
One of the things too is that they don't have to follow.
Oh,
And so
and yeah, I mean,
that's the biggest criteria. For me, for a good leader, one of the signs is when you're leading people that are volunteers. They don't really have to follow you, but you
yes.
lead with influence, you lead with compassion, you lead with love. And so this is powerful. Now, confidence. That's one of the things that a lot of leaders can struggle with, and a lot of women can struggle with. So, why
Yeah.
lean into confidence?
Because I think it is the foundation for pretty much everything we do. Like if we feel good about ourselves, like it's much easier to move forward. But if we're doubting every decision we make, then you can't be that strong of a leader if you're not sure about yourself. I mean, I had a method that I created for it, which is called the REAL method, which stands for respect yourself, embrace your failures, ask yourself what you want, and live without limits. And respect is the foundation for everything we do, right? I don't know about you, but as a child, I was taught to respect my elders, my peers, but never once do I remember being taught that the most important person to respect is myself. So that's why that's so important to me and so important as a big piece of confidence is that learning to respect ourselves, setting boundaries, learning to say no without feeling guilty, saying yes to things that are appropriate, right? And taking care of ourselves, which historically we haven't done a very good job at that.
Yeah. And all of that is really important. Every time I have a leader on the show, there's always a reason why this is the work of their
Mm.
soul. So I know there's a story. You love telling stories, but there's a story behind why you're leaning into igniting that confidence in others. Why is
Yeah.
it so important to you?
So I am someone that struggled with self-doubt for the majority of my life. I'm 53 years old now. When I was 42, I had a really big transformational moment. But I'll take a step back and say that when I was in high school, I had an abusive boyfriend. And that really kind of shaped my path forward, constantly doubting myself, never thinking that I was good enough, smart enough, pretty enough, whatever the enoughs were, I was never that. And I was really struggling. And so when I was 42, I was asked to do something completely out of my comfort zone, which was to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. Now, I live in Florida. I've never climbed anything before. I went camping a couple of times, but that was completely out of my comfort zone. But that was exactly what I needed to move forward. And what I realized was that the self-doubt that I had was affecting every aspect of my life. And so my goal is to help other people realize what they're capable of, because if there's something that you want to do, you can accomplish it. You have to put in the work. But every time we tell ourselves that we're not capable of something, that's what we believe. So it's really, changing the words that we use about ourselves, how we talk to ourselves, how we talk about ourselves, because your thoughts shape your reality. Your words shape your future.
And so tell us about that challenge that you took on, because not everybody does that. But what was it that you learned on that journey?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I learned a ton on that journey, but I knew I needed something in that moment that just happened to present itself. I mean, would I have chose to climb a mountain if someone didn't ask me to do it? Probably not. That was not a bucket list item. But really what I learned was that I am capable. So the big thing for me is the voice inside my head. So I call it the what if whisperer. What if you fail? What if they judge you? All the different what ifs. So that was on that mountain. What are you doing here? You have 6 kids at home. Why did you think you could do this? And it was taking that one step, the next step, the next step, saying, yes, you can do this. You can do this. So that was the biggest transformation for me, is realizing that I don't have control of the negative thoughts that are coming into my head, but I can change them. And so I created a little mindset hack. It has a very creative title, Control Alt Delete. Back in the day, that's how we would reset a frozen computer. Now it brings up Task Manager. I have no idea what Task Manager does, but it manages your tasks, I guess. So control is about awareness. There's a lot of research on the amount of thoughts that we have every day and what percentage are negative. And there's a study out of Queen's University in Canada that says that we have 6,200 thoughts a day. 85% of them are negative, 95% are repetitive. So day after day, the same negative thoughts on repeat. So the control piece is about awareness. Like the thoughts that come into your mind, are they real? Are they helpful? Most of the time, it's a story you're telling yourself. So alt is about alternative. Tell yourself a better story. Instead of telling yourself that you can't do something, yes, you can. And watch me. Yes, I can do this. And instead of asking yourself, oh, what if I fail? How about when I succeed? Again, the way you talk to yourself, the way you talk about yourself changes everything. And finally, delete. Delete the habits and beliefs that don't serve you. Delete the comparison game. Delete the belief that you're not enough. Delete the idea that you need to wait until you feel ready. I like to say that waiting until you feel ready is like waiting for IKEA instructions to actually make sense. It is not going to happen. So that's a little mindset hack that I have, that anytime I have those thoughts coming in, because that's a big barrier to any kind of leadership when we start doubting ourselves. And we need to really question, why are we doubting ourselves? Because usually the answer is it's not true. Like we're making up stories.
Control Alt Delete. It starts with self-awareness, right? It starts
Mhm.
with us being intentional about our thinking, right? Because we can't control it if we're not aware, or we're not intentional about being aware, because we're typically on automatic. And even people who have done this for a long time, they still have to practice and have that discipline of, what am I thinking today? Because again, we're on automatic. So I love that hack. But you're also an author. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So I've written 2 books. My first book is called The Extraordinary UnOrdinary You. That one is all about realizing what you're capable of and recognizing that the little things you do every day matter. We so often look at things and say, oh, that didn't make a difference. But every little thing you do makes a difference, right? The way you communicate with someone, the way you show compassion. There's so many parts of what we do on a daily basis that we don't give ourselves credit for. So that's what the first book is about. And the second book is called Real Confidence, a simple guide to go from unsure to unshakable. And that one is all about my real method. Again, respect yourself, embrace your failures, ask yourself what you want, and live without limits. And it's about transformation. This one has a lot of exercises, and it's about doing the work. And labor of love, this one took me 3 years, and it's called Real Confidence. It was a labor of love to
Okay.
create this book.
It definitely is. I love the title, The Extraordinary Unordinary You.
Hmm.
Most of us don't think that,
No, we don't.
right? So
We
what
think about, about other people like that, but not about ourselves.
But isn't it interesting? You also mentioned that, we have to be careful how we speak to ourselves because that has an impact on how we affect other people. So consequently, the way we lead ourselves is also the way we're going to lead other people. So leading
Yeah.
ourselves right matters. How we talk to ourselves matters. You also have a podcast. Tell us about that. Her Unshakable Confidence.
Yeah, so it's a podcast with my 23-year-old daughter. So out of my six kids, one of them wants to do a podcast with me. So I think that's pretty good. Not too bad odds there. It's really a podcast made for women, although we have a lot of men listeners as well. But it is kind of going through the things that we're struggling with and how we move forward. Every other week, it's just the two of us. And then the next week, we have a guest on. So it's been a really fun experience watching my daughter's transformation. When I was 23, I don't think I even understood what confidence was, but she's a law student and she can stand up there and talk her way through anything that she needs because she's put in the work. And I think that's such a big part. You mentioned this earlier, but I think a lot of times when people think about confidence, they think that people are either born with it or they're not. But confidence is a skill. It's a skill that you build, it's a skill that you practice. It's like any other skill. So, you go to the gym one time, you're not going to be buff tomorrow. Like, just doesn't work that way. You take one Spanish lesson, you're not going to be fluent. Like, you have to work on it. And it's the same with our mindset. We have to work on it every single day so that what you said before, no matter how much you've practiced things, you have to be able to catch yourself and say, oh, this is happening. So it's important to think of it as a skill, as a practice that we have instead of, oh, they're really confident and I'm just not, because that's not true at all.
And a lot of people believe that for people who are tuning in that have difficulty with confidence, how important is it to surround yourself with people that are on your side?
It is very important. So, one of the chapters in my book, I talk about toxic relationships because not only do we have toxic relationships with other people, but we have toxic relationships with ourselves. So, going back to how you talk to yourself, how you talk about yourself. But when you think about the relationships you have with other people, do you want someone to support you and say, yeah, go out there, you should try it, you can do this? Or do you want someone to say, oh no, don't take that risk, right? Like, obviously there's some things that are reasonable and some things that aren't. But even when I climbed Kilimanjaro, I had people ask me a couple of things. One, do you really think you're going to make it to the top? No, I think I'm going to make it halfway. That's why I'm doing it. Right. So, you want people to say you are going to make it to the top, and you don't need the external validation, right? You need it to come from yourself first, but then to have people cheering you on makes a big difference.
And I remember speaking to a guest one time and he challenged me. He says, Lily, how you speak to yourself, you have to think about, are you your own best friend?
Mm,
And
yep.
that nailed it for me. Oh my goodness. And he said, if you were to talk to your best friend the way you talk to you,
Yes.
would you still have a best friend? And it was a moment that really stopped me in my tracks and helped me to really think about how I talk to myself.
Yeah.
And
I
and it's
say that all the time. I love that.
and it's an evolution, right? We continue to grow in this area. So
Yeah.
thank you so much. Now, change is inevitable. Growth, we know, is optional. Sometimes change brings crisis. Sometimes we face crisis. That's an opportunity for us to flourish and grow. So, with that said, what has been the best crisis in your life?
It's going to come back to raising my kids. So we adopted our fourth child. Our first adoption was our son, Noah, who is from South Korea, and he was diagnosed with autism. And what it did was it really taught our family the importance of perspective, the importance of patience, respecting everybody for exactly who they are, standing up for people when they can't use their voice, that you help them. And so I think at first we were probably like, oh my gosh, like, how do we move forward? I mean, he's at college. He drives a car. Like, he does all the things because we didn't give up. We kept going and saying, yes, you can do this. Yes, you can do this. And so, that was completely life changing for everybody in our family.
Wow, you're such a beautiful soul. Like, even through
Mhm.
Zoom, I
Thank
can
you.
feel your amazing energy. And I'm sure the listeners are leaning in as well, thinking, where can I contact her? So tell us about your website and where we can best contact you.
Yeah, my website is SimoneKnego.com, SimoneKnego. And that's the best place to contact me. But you can also find me on social media. I'm the only Simone Knego right now in the world. So if you search me, you will find me. And if you want to listen or watch the podcast, Her Unshakable Confidence. And if you want to check out the book, it's realconfidencebook.com.
Beautiful. Now, as someone committed to continuous learning, Simone, what are you learning right now?
So, since I'm in the middle of a book launch, I am learning everything that there has to do with book launches, right? I mean, I love helping people. Sales was not my thing, but boy, I'm learning a ton about sales and putting yourself out there and asking. And I think one of the biggest realizations is people really do want to help, right? So ask the question. And I say it to my kids all the time, but it's like something I need to follow through on is that just ask the question because the answer most of the time is going to be yes, because people do want to help you.
And even if it's a no for now, and
Exactly. Yeah.
move on. But asking questions is really, really important, especially in leadership. In fact, one of the reasons why I started this podcast, two reasons, well, three. One, I started it in 2016, another election that was interesting to say the least. And I thought, what is my responsibility here?
Mm.
And I wanted to create a platform where we can talk about what good leadership looks like and up level collectively how we look at that. And so it is a passion project. The other one was I needed to learn to listen more, which I continue to grow in. And then the third one is asking good questions. And all three are pillars of leadership: taking responsibility, listening, asking those questions. And I absolutely love what you're bringing to the table. Confidence is something that I've had to work on and continue to work on, especially, when you have leaders who have come from trauma or have experienced trauma, which is, a good majority of us. And if we don't deal with that, this, we can affect other people. We can hurt other people. And so we lean in, get the books, because this will help in our growth. Simone, thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. So, Simone, when you reflect on leadership today, what are your biggest concerns and what gives you the most hope?
So I would say biggest concerns is still the idea that you have to have a title to be a leader, that we don't look at the things that we do on a regular basis as leadership, and that's so not true. And I just want people to really understand every choice they make is a leadership decision. And it's so important when we think about that way we show up differently, right? If you're already thinking that you're a leader, when you show up at work, you're going to work differently than if you show up waiting for someone to tell you what to do. So I think that making that change. And my hope is when I look at my kids and think the way they're able to self-advocate, things that they do that I never would have thought of. Whatever people say about the younger generation, I think we're actually going to be in very good hands because they are able to speak up. They are able to say, like, okay, this is what I really care about. This is what I really need.
Simone, it really speaks to your leadership too, because as wonderful as they are, they have a mom like you. And so one of the things that my son, I have one, and I always said since he was little, he's like having 10, and I'm a teacher. And so one of the things that he taught me, and this is absolutely true, is that I need to be who I want to be wherever I am, because they're always listening, they're always leaning in, and they will tell you, you're being a hypocrite, you're being whatever. And so they help you become more self-aware. But it is a powerful thing to see how your children have grown in their confidence, but it comes down to really parenting and what you've done. Powerful stuff. Thank you.
Thank you. I always say modeling matters way more than managing. They're going to follow what we do. And when they see us doing something that is not typical for you, they totally call you out. I've been called out many times and it's good because they're right. They're paying attention to it. And so what I want to make sure for my kids is that they have that idea that they know that they can do any of this stuff, that they have the power to accomplish whatever they want to accomplish if they put in the work. And that self-belief is huge.
And I love that you have a podcast with your daughter, because you're not just telling her, hey, you need to be confident. You're giving her,
Yeah.
you're helping. The platform helps, right? So the tools, it's practice, it's experience. Love that. So we have a surprise question from a former guest. Are you ready?
Sure.
So Dr. Daniel Tatahe wants to know, who are you becoming because of the way you lead.
I'm becoming myself. And I think for so many of us, we pretend to be something that we're not. We feel like we have to perform. And the
Mm.
whole idea of leadership is being completely me and not worrying about trying to be someone else, trying to compare myself to other people. It's literally growing into myself.
And loving who you are,
Oh,
right?
100%. And being your own best friend.
I
Treat
love
yourself like you would your best friend.
Beautiful response. Now, as a listener of this podcast, what's a question that you would like a future leadership guest to respond to? Like, what are you curious about?
I would love to ask about the younger generation. What are people thinking? What are people seeing when it comes to adults going from college into the workforce? Do they see themselves as leaders or do they feel like they're not enough?
Simone, that's not been asked before.
Oh, good.
Thank you so much for contributing to the list of beautiful questions we have now. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners before we wrap up?
I will share one last thing, which is you don't need to change who you are. You need to change the way you see yourself. Stop worrying that other people are doing a better job than you. You are amazing as you are, and give yourself credit for that.
That reminds me of that quote. I think it was Wayne Dyer who said, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at
Look
change.
at change. Yes.
So, one more time, tell us your website.
Okay. Website is SimoneKnego.com, SimoneKnego. You can find the new book, realconfidencebook.com. And you can also find it on Amazon and everything online. My first book, The Extraordinary UnOrdinary You, also you can find it on all the online platforms. And then the podcast is called Her Unshakeable Confidence. And you can find that anywhere you listen to podcasts.
Thank you, Simone, for pouring into me, pouring into our listeners. It's been a great conversation.
Thank you so much for having me here.